Episode 101, Wireless LAN Professionals Podcast. In this podcast, we're going to have a special kickoff about why we went from Wireless LAN Weekly to Wireless LAN Professionals Podcast, and a little talk about that. We also have our great friend Jussi from Ekahau is going to tell us a little bit about the update to Ekahau Site Survey 9.0 and all the features there. That's what we've got in store for you, so stay tuned.
Wireless LAN Professionals is a place to educate, inform, encourage, and entertain those involved in wireless LANs. This Wireless LAN Professionals podcast is an audio manifestation of these goals. Our host is a wireless LAN veteran, consultant, designer, and teacher, Keith Parsons. And now, the podcast for Wireless LAN Professionals by Wireless LAN Professionals.
Well, here we are starting a new series of podcast episodes dedicated to wireless LANs. My name is Keith Parsons, and welcome you to the show. Wireless LAN Weekly was our old show, and this new show is going to be called Wireless LAN Professionals Podcast. If I end up making mistakes on there, it's probably because I had about 50 episodes of Wireless LAN Weekly, got really involved and busy in my career and business, and kind of dropped the ball on that previous one. Gratefully, some other people in this industry came back up with some other podcasts. We had No Strings Attached Show and Clear to Send. Both are great podcasts, and I highly recommend you go and check out iTunes and listen in on all those previous episodes and we'll have in the show notes with links where you can go get those. But I thought it was about time to come back and get involved in podcasting. I really enjoyed podcasting the first time around. It was a little difficult scheduling time every single week. I'm now in a point in my career where I'm spending most of my time traveling and working around the world, so I didn't have a dedicated time to do podcasting like I used to. But I think I figured out a way where you can make this work for all involved. I figured out a way where we could get help from a variety of other people. So we'll have main segments on some important piece of information that has to do with wireless LANs, but then we'll also have co-hosts. They're going to come in and help out along with the podcast. We've got folks like Eddie Ferreira doing a little section on bad Fi, Glenn Kate doing some blog reviews for us, as well as Devin Aiken from Divergent Dynamics doing some reviews of topical ideas to do with what's going on in the Wi-Fi world, as well as Lee Badman doing some Wi-Fi question of the day kind of things that he's been doing. So we're going to spread this out a little bit. It's going to be more like a variety show. A bunch of us, though we're not always going to be together in the same room. In fact, rarely will that happen. We have great help in my assistant. Matthew is going to be doing a whole bunch of work putting these all together, melding these individual pieces in. And just want to put a shout out to Matthew Castile for putting that together. You also hear his voice. He'll be doing some of the interviews for some other individuals along the way. So this will be a new way of doing podcasting, kind of a putting parts together, and we hopefully will make it entertaining, educating, and inspiring to help you want to listen in and learn more about wireless LANs. So just to recap, Wireless LAN Professionals Podcast is relaunching. You'll note the numbering differences. We're starting out with this first episode is 101. I hope you stay tuned. If you have any questions, you can always go check out the Wireless LAN Professionals website, and all of our podcasts will be there, as well as all the Wireless LAN Professional conference videos and tons of resources that are there. So thanks for listening, and we have a special with Jussi coming on in this section, just following up.
WLAN interview.
We're back here in Helsinki. Today I'm meeting with Jussi. Jussi, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, thank you. How are you, Keith?
I'm great.
Good to see you, man.
I heard you have a new upgrade to your software.
Do we? Sure. Yeah, it's, the stuff Mikko does without telling me.
He doesn't tell you anything. He just says, oh, got a new number. And this is not a little small point release. This is a big release to 9.0 or 9.0.1, whatever the little numbers go. But it's the big number we care about. What can you tell us about what's involved, not just in this product, but a lot of our listeners have been following software development, especially in the Wi-Fi tools, for a long time. and we have something like Meraki has a Make-A-Wish. And for Ekahau, there's a Twitter hashtag, hashtag ESS request. How do those requests end up getting into the next version of software? What's the process?
All right, so two-folded question. Let me get the sales pitch out the way, and then we can talk about the actual stuff. Is that fair?
Of course. Sales pitch away.
All right, so yeah, we released ESS 9.0, Ekahau Site Survey and Planner 9.0, and this is really an upgrade primarily for the planner part of things. So, and a traditional, let's say, case study of, the industry needs something, and then we try to understand the big picture and come out with something that solves the big picture for as many people as possible. So ESS 9.0 brings advanced capacity planning, and that has a few things in it. First of all, it has the all-new automatic planner. So the previous Ekahau Site Survey automatic planner, which basically places the access points for you based on your requirements on the map or several maps at the time, and then it configures automatically the channels of the APs and stuff like that. It had a couple of shortcomings in it. Number one, it tended to overpopulate the amount of APs in high density scenarios.
But salesmen like that.
They do, but let's not go into that. The second thing is the tool did not account for, let's say, within a single project, high capacity areas versus low capacity areas. So if you had a school with classrooms and then you had a few lecture halls that required really high capacity, but the classrooms required less, you could not define that in the tool. You could not use the auto planner to design for it, and you couldn't really validate whether it's going to work or not. And the new ESS 9.0 gives you this kind of like really, really easy to use ability to draw different zones on the floor plans and say, hey, on this lecture hall, I'm going to need 900 students to be served with their iPads and laptops. And, in these classrooms, it's going to be 30 laptops per classroom or whatever. And it, and it makes it super simple too. It used to be a bit cumbersome UX-wise in the old version. Now it's very, very easy and streamlined. So that's kind of the new capacity planning feature. But then also the other part is like, how do I make sure that the capacity is sufficient? And for that, we brought the airtime utilization heat map, which accounts for, the amount and distribution of clients, the types of clients, how many spatial streams, all those basic things, and which applications are run on the clients and how often and what kind of SLAs are required. But it also accounts for new things that were missing in the previous version, like, number of SSIDs, do I have legacy data rates enabled or not, and which ones, band steering, and then the tool completely now supports dual 5 GHz as well as disabling 2.4 GHz radios, including the auto planner. So the auto planner automatically disables 2.4 radios or converts them into dual 5. It automatically avoids hallway placement. It avoids bathrooms. It avoids elevators without you telling that they are bathrooms or elevators. It just knows from the floor plan layout. So it has a ton of new improvements, but it has been like 4 years in development. So,
well, of course, it has new. So in the past, the capacity planner had all of those, had the features about airtime and how many minutes, down to the minute level of how many minutes voice over IP was going to be used. But you've augmented that. You can use capacity analysis in the old version based on if you collect data from a post-validation survey. Will this new capacity planner also have that same type of reporting on post-install validations?
Yeah. For example, you can do a site survey of an existing network and then throw simulated capacity at the network, and all that works just like it did in the previous version, if that was your question.
Yeah, so that you do get the analysis side. So it's you'd mentioned it was basically about planning, but you could use that same feature in a post-analysis.
Absolutely, and for fine-tuning the network and, dropping those low data rates, seeing its impact, seeing the impact of dropping your number of SSIDs from 6 to 3, stuff like that. So it is, plus it will make for you, Keith, as an Ekahau certified survey engineer trainer, your team, Eddie, Devin, and Blake, Sam, everybody, it will kind of also illustrate very easily how Wi-Fi works and what are the major contributors to airtime utilization, which is the key to Wi-Fi performance. What degrades it the most? What makes it better? Things like that.
So you can play a little what if with it. What if I lowered my data rates, or I stopped having low data rates? What's the effect on capacity?
Absolutely.
I love having what ifs. Spreadsheets are great for learning things, and so far Ekahau has been wonderful for learning other things about co-channel interference. One of the issues with the old planner was, like you mentioned, too many APs having co-channel interference. So is a co-channel interference requirement now part of its process?
Not really the requirement of CCI. It's more like trying to avoid it as much as possible. So the tool now understands that CCI is bad. Do not, or stop populating APs, stop adding APs where it doesn't really make sense, and start converting radios on 2.4, either disabling them or turning them dual 5 once you start seeing CCI and where you require a dense AP placement.
Well, one of the last upgrades added the ability to do copy and paste. It's been asked for a long time. It's been on, a lot of people have asked for it with the ESS request hashtag. How did other ESS request hashtags get into this 9.0 release?
Oh, yeah, and coming to your original question, I guess it's about the process on how this works. And
is it just magic? You write it down and instantly it's coded in the next version.
Yeah, exactly. It's that's a manifolded question. I guess there's a lot of things that. Let's start with the ESS requests. Often these are single feature. Somebody asks for a single feature. Copy paste is a perfect example. Like something that's really, really necessary for the user, and clearly it needs to be done. And there's pretty much one way of doing it right, and that's what we tried to do. So that was pretty simple. Then there's we get an enormous amount of these, by the way. That much thanks to you and your community.
Does it help, just from the community standpoint, if someone asks for something ESS request and 20 people also say it, does that give a little more weight for a priority, or how does that priority process work?
Absolutely, it helps. So of course, the more frequently things are asked, the more weighing they get. And also what increases the weighing is if people explain the use case scenario for it. Sometimes you just hear of like at this button or at that button or slider, and the context might be missing, but usually they are brilliant, the requests. But the more context we have on the request, the better we can understand the situation and implement it so that it helps not just this particular user, but how it helps the community. How does it help the 50,000 customers as well as this single user?
So ESS request, obviously, on Twitter is limited to 140 characters, less the ESS request words. Mm-hmm. How would someone go about giving you that context and writing up perhaps a longer request with explanation of why?
Mikko at ekahau.com, Mikko at ekahau.com. He's our product director. I think the first starting point is our support team, because they have direct access to our feature management system, and they initially usually put in the feature request, and they also understand the context, and they can explain it a bit more there when they put it in. But support at ekahau.com, it's not your just about reset my license. These guys are actually Wi-Fi experts that have gone through your training and CWNP trainings and stuff like that. So that would be a good starting point. But when I was ESS request is one thing, right? But then there's also the where the industry is going, and that's a bigger thing that we also need to look at, and that's why we have, for example, guys like Chuck Lukaszewski, Eldad Peraya, and the 7Signal guys, Veli-Pekka and Dave, come in and talk about the future standards and how they're gonna influence the Wi-Fi as a whole and the industry. It's not just it's of course primarily about we need to educate our customers and give them good content, but it's also for us to kind of learn and understand and continue those discussions with those guys on where the world is going, how are these standards deployed and designed in the enterprise, and when and how should we bring those standards to our products. And that's what we've been talking with you, for example, today we touched on some of the standards and how they're going to work, like AX and K and stuff like that. And then there's, sorry for the long monologue, I just love my voice, man.
Sounds so good, too.
Oh, yeah. Then there's the kind of the internal innovation, which is something that people usually patent or whatever. Again, bureaucracy, I don't know anything about it, but the thing that's relevant is we also need to like combine our engineering expertise with our expertise of understanding the market and the customers, and kind of combine that into some kind of mishmash and try to come up with big significant features that would then help a ton of people, but features that nobody actually directly asked for. And that's like a big pile of the competitive advantage, hopefully, comes from something like that.
And a lot of our listeners, people who think of themselves as Wi-Fi professionals, have a set of tools and a set of experiences and knowledge, but they're not your only market. You need to make a tool that goes out to a broader audience. And thus, I can see how some of us will ask for something that might be useful for our little niche, but you've got to make things that go out for everyone.
Yeah, that's the difficulty, because there's, guys like you and Blake and Sam and Jake Snyder and there's a couple of hundred people that are the or let's say 500 or so, but there's maybe 30 of these really core guys and then 500 really professional Wi-Fi designers around them that are very vocal, and somehow we need to serve you guys because you're kind of the original guys and you also have a ton of influence in the industry. But you're exactly right. So then there's those 50,000 other guys or 100,000 or a million other guys that also should be able to use the product. And if we made a product for you and Devin, it would look quite different from if we made it for an IT administrator in your local school.
And whatever you can do to help stop bad Fi, we'll go for it.
I really appreciate that. And that's the goal, right?
Yep. Well, ESS 9.0 now available and ready and shipping. If someone is a ESS user currently, what's their process of getting upgraded? And if they are or not underneath the support, how do they get these new features?
Good question. So those that are under support, the next time they fire up ESS, it will suggest download a new version and the installer will run and they will have the latest and greatest features. Those that don't have support should probably contact our sales at ekahau.com, or just go to our online store if it's available in your country, buy it from there, or contact your local distributor and purchase additional support, stuff like that. But it's a pretty straightforward procedure. Sorry, can I add one more thing?
Of course.
I'd really like to give a big shout out and thank you for everybody who has been, communicating with us, contributing to the features that are in the product. Without you guys, there would be nothing in the product. And I appreciate how, active the Wi-Fi community has been around us. So not just Twitter, but we get a lot of email, and our support team gets a ton of, improvement requests to the product. Along with the rants about the bugs that we never have, their features. What else was I going to say? So there's the users, then there's the ECSE, or so the certified survey engineers that you and Devin and Blake and everybody have trained for a long time. What is there, a couple of thousand of those?
Yeah, over 2,000, yeah.
Well done, sir. So this is a very active community of people that helps us shape the product and the industry we're trying to shape with those guys. And then there's the Ekahau Masters, right? What do you think of that and that group's importance? And maybe you can talk about the Masters a little bit.
Well, last year we had the first Masters, and it was a chance for a subset of the community to get together and give feedback directly to Ekahau. I think you did a wonderful job of setting up a scenario where you ask us questions and set scenarios where we would even pretend we're product managers for an afternoon and help you build whatever the next product is. One, from being on the Masters on our side, it felt good that you were listening. and seeing the results of some of those things we talked about actually show up in a product, that makes you feel like, oh, they're actually listening, and it turned into a real product. Now, of course, we did some pie in the sky ideas of, something you could put on your head in virtual reality survey. Yeah, you're not going to get all those, but it allowed us the chance to get together with other people who are in the industry and talk about it. Another one's coming up later this fall, the second Masters, and have a whole new list of some new blood in there to come and give feedback. I can see how it's really good for Ekahau from a feedback standpoint. It's good for the community to realize that you're asking us to help you in that feedback process.
And it gives you the opportunity to eat lamb 2 times a day, right?
At least 2. You could have it for breakfast too. That was an inside joke when we were in Iceland. The restaurant we had, it was lamb or lamb.
And we were stuck in that hotel for like 4 days, but
it was a good hotel, so it was quite an enjoyable process. Thanks for coming on and talking about ESS 9.0. If anyone wants to upgrade, just next time you click ESS, it'll come up and ask for an upgrade. And if you're not currently under support, you should be.
Thanks, Keith, for having me on. Again, I really do appreciate that. And a big kudos to what you're doing in the community, whether it's training, the conferences, anything. And actually, isn't the fall Wi-Fi Pros, WLAN Pros conference coming up quite soon, huh?
It's in Lisbon. The conference is in Lisbon this year. Every year we hold the European one in a different location since people get to move it around. Sometimes we pick weird places, like the original one in Maastricht, but Berlin was great, Budapest was great, and now we're moving a little south to Lisbon. It's October 3rd and 4th. Glad to have as many people come as possible. I'm sure your team's going to be there.
Oh, we certainly will, sir. We certainly will.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks a lot, Keith. Talk to you later. Bye.
Wireless LAN terminology. Do you know what this word means?
Hertz. What is Hertz? Hertz is the international unit for measuring frequency, equivalent to cycles per second. 1 megahertz is 1 million hertz. 1 gigahertz is 1 billion hertz. The standard U.S. electrical power frequency is 60 hertz. AM radio band is 0.55 to 1.6 megahertz. FM radio band is 88 to 108 megahertz. And WLANs operate at 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz.
This has been Wireless LAN Professionals Podcast number 101. We had a little intro, a little kickoff of this new podcast, followed by an interview that I did with Jussi from Ekahau on the new Ekahau 9.0. We hope you like this new format. If you have any feedback or questions, feel free to contact us at the show notes on wirelesslandprofessionals.com. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Wireless LAN Professionals Podcast, the podcast for wireless LAN professionals by wireless LAN professionals. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Wireless LAN Pros for all the latest news and updates, and also connect directly with Keith on Twitter at Keith R. Parsons. Head over to www.wlanpros.com for this episode's show notes, as well as the latest in all things Wi-Fi.